Hey, my name is Steven, I'm the main man behind Steve Game Studios, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make your first game with Unity really easy, really fast, so let's get right into it. And if you're new to the channel, then make sure to subscribe right now, because here on this channel I make my first really professional game this year, and I make it community driven, so you can interact, you can vote, and you can share your opinions to the game, and I will implement it, so be part of the journey and subscribe right now. And without further talking, let's make your first game. So now that we are in the Unity Hub, we can actually create a project, so we just gonna click new project, and because we are making a 2D game, gonna click universal 2D, and then the project name will be Pong, because we actually going to remake Pong. It's a classic from the 50s, and I'm sure you heard already from it. So yeah, that's the game that we're gonna make, and just click create project. Of course, you should use a good location like the C drive. So yeah, that's just the first step. So while Unity is now loading, I created a little document called Pong game plan, because when you develop a game, it's really important to already have a plan in mind, because at the end, what you do when you code and when you make a game, it's just, translation. So you translate the things that you have in your mind to the computer. That's all you basically do. And so yeah, that's why you need always a plan. Here in this case, we just have a little to-do list. So when we make Pong, obviously we need the ball. We also need the bounce physics of the ball. We also need the top and bottom wall, so the ball can actually bounce off it. And we obviously need the player wall. And in a normal Pong game, there were actually 2 players, but for me this was a little bit boring, so I just created a computer wall, so you actually can play this game also by yourself. And what we also need is a result counter, so that we actually can count the points and the score. And we obviously also need triggers, so when the ball gets behind the wall, that there is a trigger, and when the trigger hits the ball, it actually gets you some points. And then at the end, we also need a play again button, because that just creates this nice core game loop. We are finally in the project. We see an empty Unity project here, and by the way, this is my first live coding session, so yeah, I'm very hyped. I hope I can do it, but I would say let's just go over it. First thing we do is just create a square here, and that is going to be our player pedal. Yeah, let's just call it player pedal. Let's adjust the scale a little bit, so let's make it here 0.5 and here 1.5, and then we can also change the position, so it's gonna be minus 8.5. We're also gonna create an empty object, and let's call that play, and let's insert our player pedal in. This is just, for sorting things. I think it's very important in Unity to always have your stuff sorted, that also other developers can adjust your project. But yeah, let's make the next step. I duplicate the player pedal here, and let's call the next one computer pedal. Make this just here 8.5. Then what we also need is a box collider 2D, and also we need a rigid body 2D. For the pedals, we're gonna make this kinematic here, and we also gonna say here for the constraints that the Z rotation should be free and the X position freeze. And we're gonna exact thing for the rigid body 2D here in the player pedal, and also box collider 2D for the player pedal. Oh yeah, now we have our player and our computer. Also we need, of course, a ball, so we're just gonna go here into the 2D sprites and gonna create a circle. Then we also don't need a box collider here. Actually, we need a circle collider, and we also need a rigid body 2D. For here, we're gonna make it dynamic, and we're gonna set the gravity scale to 0, and we're gonna freeze the rotation head. So in that way, the ball moves normally, and it just don't falls down with the gravity scale equals to 0. The next thing we're gonna do is also add some physics. So we're gonna create here a new 2D physics material. We're gonna call it bounce, and we're gonna make the friction 0 and the bouncing 1. Now we can add this to all of those things here. Let's put it just in here. So the rigid body, the box collider, again here for the computer pedal also. And of course, very important here, the circle, or we're gonna call it ball. I think that fits better. So now we have this play thing. The next thing we're gonna do is actually make the game field. We're gonna create a new empty object, call it game field. And in here, we're gonna create a new 2D object, and let's make it a square. And we're gonna call it top wall. So now we put it on the top here. And you can also, adjust yourself things. And for example, say, okay, I want to make it a little bit more down there, so the player sees the top wall. In my case, I want to make it a little bit more clean, so I'm gonna just put it on 5.5. I'm gonna change the scale for the x-axis, so it actually goes, here. So we actually create this nice little wall. Let's make it x equals to 18. And yeah, in this way, we have a top wall. We also need here a box collider 2D, and yeah, that's it basically. And then we're also gonna duplicate it, and let's call the second one bottom wall. And a nice little trick that you can always use here is just with the y-axis, put a minus there. And so like this, we have a bottom and a top wall. What we also need are triggers. So I'm just gonna create another empty object here into the game field, and I'm gonna call it triggers. And in here, we're gonna create also an empty object, but to do that, we're gonna add a box collider 2D actually. And very important step is we're gonna make it a trigger, because in that way the ball can actually go through collider and we just, eat it for coding. What we're also gonna do is add tags for that. So we're gonna make a tag named left score, and we're also gonna make a tag called right score. So yeah, just like this. And we also can name the object here. We're gonna call it left trigger. And then for the very important part is obviously the scaling. So we're just gonna move the thing here, and we're gonna move it something like this. And then we're gonna scale this whole thing up, the box collider actually something like 20. Make this a lot here. So now we have the left trigger. We're gonna duplicate it, and then the right, name it right trigger like that, and put it on the other side. So I think 11 should work also perfectly. So now you can see if I select both of them, we have here both triggers. And of course we need to actually add the text. So for that, left score, and here we're gonna say right score. So those are the basic triggers. What you can also add here, what I'm also gonna actually do is I'm gonna make actually another trigger, and I'm gonna rotate it now. So for the Z axis, I'm gonna put it on something like 90. I think that should work. And then I'm also gonna put it up here. So yeah, something like, I would say maybe 9.5 should work. I'm also gonna move it something like this, so 17.5. Because maybe you saw in my last video where I talked about a game that I made with 17, you also saw there a version of Pong that I made, and there are always some bugs in the game that are really hard to fix, but you need to, adjust yourself to those. So that's why I make you also like a top trigger. Yeah, just like this. I just created a right trigger here for top, and then I'm also gonna duplicate it. Let's name it a little bit different here. So right trigger up, and then we're gonna have here right trigger down, put it all the way down actually. So minus 9.5. And the same goes for the left trigger. So I'm just gonna, duplicate this. Let's make the rotation here minus 90. And I'm gonna put it up something like 9.5 should work again. And then gonna drag it here. So yeah, 17.5 should also work here. And let's name it left trigger up, and then duplicate this left trigger down. And again here minus 9.5. So just like this, we have now the triggers, we have the game field, and we have a ball. That's really nice. But of course we also need some UI. So I'm just gonna create a new canvas. Here under UI, you can see canvas, and we actually don't need to rename that, but we need to put in the main camera in here. So just like this. So maybe in the background that the canvas actually scaled down to the normal camera. That's very nice. And we're also gonna adjust here the settings. So we're gonna say UI scale mode to scale with screen size, and then just 1920 times 1080, just the normal full HD format. In the canvas, we are actually gonna make a new text mesh pro item. And if you're new to Unity, you're probably gonna need to import those things. So yeah, just click on import. Also here with the examples and extras, and yeah, after some time we have actually the text. So I'm gonna rename it here to score text. You can adjust different things. One thing I like to do is just put it here on the left completely, and then also on the right completely, because in that way we can just go into the text mesh pro settings and select here the middle thing, so the text always stays in the middle. I'm also gonna put the size of the text to 50. Don't by the way use the scale setting, because the graphics gonna look not that good. So yeah, always use the font size setting. And then also we're gonna put it up here, so something like this should work for now. The text will be like P, and then a 0, and then double point 0, and then again a C. So that's our tag for the score, and at the end I put it at like here 500 position Y. So yeah, that should work for now. And then what we also need is a new UI object. Let's make a raw image, and let's call it background, because for now you see here a blue background, but in the original Pong game there was black background. So we're actually gonna change the color here, and then just scale it up. So yeah, something like this should work, maybe 12 even. And then here on the X, something like 20 should also work. So yeah, and by the way, really important step here, because you don't see the score right now, but all we need to do to get the score back is just put it up here. This is just a thing that you should always notice. Don't panic if you don't see the text. Just change it here in the hierarchy. That is a really nice setup. What we also need now is actually some things in the coding, because for now just have the little setup here, but nothing happens so far. So yeah, that's really important. So we're gonna create a new folder, name it code, and in here we're gonna create 4 scripts. The first one will be game manager, the next one will be player pedal, the next one is going to be ball move, and then we also need a script called computer pedal. Those are the 4 scripts that we need. We don't need any more, but what we need is, again, here in the hierarchy, we need a game manager object. So yeah, let's call it game manager, let's reset the transform, and let's add a game manager script actually to our game manager object, just like this. And then also we're gonna add here the player pedal script to the player pedal object, the computer pedal script to the computer pedal object, and then the ball move script to the guessed ball move object. So yeah, that that is the thing that we need for now. Before I actually go into the scripts, I'm gonna create something more here in the canvas, because what I also talked about in the intro was a play again system. So that's what we're gonna make here. We have here a new empty object, gonna call it try again. And in here, we're gonna make a new raw image, and we're gonna make it something like in the scale 5 to 5, just like I said now many times, you know, it's a preference thing. And we're gonna call it background. And in the background, we're gonna create another text mesh pro object. We're gonna call it winner underscore loser underscore text. In here, I'm gonna write something like Q1. And then I would say the font size should be 60. I'm gonna put the text up here in the hierarchy. And of course, we need to change the color of the text. So that is something you can do here with vertex color. We need a black color because we have here a white background, and then text here. We also need to change the position of the text. So I'm just gonna drag it up here. And I'm also gonna change the size of the text to something like this. So yeah, just get a yellow line and put it here perfectly. And then again, we can, make the text in the middle. Something like this should easily work. And then what we also need is here some buttons. So I'm gonna create a new button with the Techness Pro. I'm gonna create a play again, and then I'm gonna duplicate this and call it exit. And to change the text from the button, we actually need to go in here, and then we need to type in play again. And then for the other button, we type in here exit. Oh yeah, just like this. And of course, we can do some scaling with the buttons, change it here to 1.5 and 1. So yeah, let's make it also here for the exit button 1.5 and 1.5, and then drag it down. And then maybe the play again button a little bit more down, so something like 80, and then the exit button something like -80. This should work. This is the try again system. And now we can actually go to the scripts. So I have now implemented all the scripts. I can show it to you here right now. And by the way, I'm also gonna put a link in the description where you can go to and then download the codes. But here is the explanation part, what the codes actually do. I highly recommend you to watch it because it's very important that you also understand the code. Let's get over it. So the first thing that we have here is the player pedal script. What we have here is firstly the variable private float speed. So yeah, it's just the speed which you can actually move the pedal. Then we have also the variable bound y, and I set it to 4.2. This is also very important so that the pedal actually, stays in the radius and doesn't go like over the top wall or under the bottom wall. And then we have here the update function that's just, checks all the time if the player is actually ready to play. So if the player, maybe he's in the screen where he sees that he's won or that he lost, then of course he's not ready to play and he cannot move the pedal. But if it's not the case, he can easily just, press W or press S, and then the position of the player pedal will just change. I think it should be, pretty easy to understand. Here we have a transform.translate, and then vector to up times speed times time.delta-time. If you want, even more in depth, how this works, what is time.delta-time, and I can also, make a video on that. So yeah, write a comment right now, but otherwise I will just, go on with the basic explanation. And, at the end we have also here the vector 2 position, and what we do basically here is just, make sure that the Y position, stays in the radius with the math.clamp, and then we actually, change the position if the player tries to go outside of the screen. That is the player pedal. Then we have the ball script. The ball script is again really easy to understand. So we have again a speed, because also the ball needs a certain amount of speed. We have the rigid body, and we have the game manager object. This is just, a general game manager object, especially when I also explain the game manager script, you will understand why I did here. For the start, when a game actually starts, we're just gonna launch the ball. So that works like this. We get here a random number between -1 or 1 with the function that I wrote here. And then we just, say that the direction of the launch should be actually, either to the left or to the right, and also either up or down. And then we actually, make that happen with the velocity function here, or velocity attribute. And then we just say direction times speed. And then in the update function, we just say, okay, if the player is not ready to play, we want to have the ball always at 0-0. And we also don't want to move the ball. On the triggers here, those are especially important. The ball actually, leaves the screen behind the player or behind the computer. So, points are added. So we have here, if the left score is hit with the ball, then actually the computer gets a point, and otherwise the player gets a point. And here on trigger exit, so if the player or the computer doesn't have 5 points, because this is very important, because if they have 5 points, then the game is over and you get to this play again screen. If this is not the case, then we can just say launch and to transform the position to 0-0. This is the situation where the ball gets behind the trigger, points already there, like I showed you here, but then we actually reset the game, or not the entire game, but the ball gets again in position. This is ball move. Then we have the computer pedal. It looks complicated, but it's really easy to understand. Again, we have here a speed. I put it here a little bit down, because if you put it also on 8, it's really hard to beat a computer. And I mean, At the moment we don't have like any special things that we have here in the game. Actually in the game that I made when I was 17, I added some special abilities for the player that he can move the ball faster in a certain moment. So if we would have something like this, then you can maybe adjust the speed also to 8 for the computer, but otherwise you can just control the difficulty with this. But again, then here we have the bound Y, so again the computer panel also don't goes over the screen. Then we have the ball. This is really important here, because actually what we do here in the fixed update, that we say, okay, we have the computer pedal and it's just, you know, moves all the time with the ball. So if the ball is like really up, then the computer pedal also goes up, and just like this, you know, we have a really easy and AI, especially here with the move towards function. Always hover with your mouse over that, and then it gets really current position, that is the transform position, and then the target is the target position, and that is actually the ball, like I showed you here, ball.transform.position.y. This is the target position, and then we just change the computer pedal position every time with the move position function at the end. And then we have the game manager script, and this is just, you know, a general script for all the other stuff, like for example here the score text, that it says okay, you won or you lost. Then we also have the play again button pressed, you know, the function just here that everything, the exit button pressed, so application.quit, really easy to understand also. Those are the scripts, and if we just get back to Unity, we have saved everything. We just, you know, need to put it here in. So we have the score text, I'm just gonna drag that in there. We have the ball, actually, you know, here's the script for the ball. Then we have here the play again screen, so this is the try again screen here. Then we have the winner loser tag, this thing here, and then we have the player pedal. For the ball, we actually only need to put in two things. So on the one hand the rigid body 2D, and on the other the game manager script. And for the player pedal, again only the game manager script here. And then for the computer pedal, we need the rigid body 2D and we need the ball. And just like this, we can now hit play. And if everything works, I hope it's so, then yeah, exactly, we have created Pong. Really nice here. Actually the game goes now on. We also see here when the computer also moves. You know what I meant with this some seconds ago. It's really nice. You know, you have now your first game, really self-explanatory, nothing too crazy. And I can also let the computer win for a second. Yeah, I can also show you the play again screen. But I really hope that you liked the video, that you now know how to make your first game Pong. If you have any further question, then just let me know, just hit the comment. Like I said now many times, you know, Steve Game Studios is a place for the gamers community. It's really important for me to help you out guys there. And yeah, otherwise just subscribe to the channel so you can see further content. And I really hope you like this tutorial. If you like, if it did, now we'll just, you know, wait to the computer that he can maybe score a 5th goal. Yeah, okay, he can hit it, and then okay, right there, you know, you have here the screen, so you can hit play again or you can exit. When you hit play again, the game actually doesn't play again, because okay, now I know, because one last thing, we actually also need to put in here the game manager object and then play again button pressed. And for the exit button, we also need to put in here the game manager, and then we also need to put in here the exit button. So now you know why you should always watch the video until the end, because you always learn something. That is how you make Pong. That is how you make your first game in Unity. I really hope you liked the video. I really hope you liked the channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Bye bye.